It's a new era for Lamborghini. And leading that era is a new halo supercar, the Revuelto. It's got that classic stay back or I'll give you a paper cut Lamborghini styling, a rippin', mid-mounted, naturally aspirated and visible V12 engine, a 9,500 RPM redline, and 3 electric motors? That's right, the future of Lamborghini is hybrid. And in the Revuelto, that future has 1,001 horsepower. Hybrids are cool now.
This is the brand new Lamborghini Revuelto, and I'm Alanis King. The Revuelto starts at $600,000, and it is now Lamborghini's flagship supercar. So let's go for a drive, and stick around for the end of this video to get this Revuelto's full report card.
The Revuelto is a major shift for Lamborghini. The company let us test out the car at its second annual She Drives a Lambo event, where female Lamborghini owners bring their cars out for a drive. But before we meet the Revuelto, we have to understand what it is and what came before it. Lamborghini is an automaker of eras, and the most recent era had 2 main supercars, the Huracán and the Aventador. The Huracán was the cheaper one, if cheap can really be used here. It debuted in 2013 as a replacement for the Gallardo, a car that set sales records for Lamborghini and became a pop culture staple. The original Huracán came with a 5.2-liter V10 engine, about 600 horsepower, and styling that held up so well, the final run Huracans Lamborghini announced this year looked really similar to the original ones. With the Huracán gone, the new little Lambo is a $360,000 American dollar model called the Temerario. It comes with a twin-turbocharged V8 engine paired with 3 electric motors, and the combined hybrid output is 907 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. That's a huge jump in power.
That means 2 things. The first is that Lamborghini's Halo supercar lineup is now fully hybrid. And the second is that the Revuelto is the new big Lamborghini. It is the replacement for the Aventador.
The Aventador was the big car from the last era of Lamborghini. It debuted for 2012 with a 6.5-liter V12 engine, about 700 horsepower, and a starting price of around $400,000. In today's money, that would be about $550,000. Lamborghini announced the final Aventador in September 2022, saying, I quote, "This will be the last pure, naturally aspirated V12 Lamborghini to be produced before the company enters full hybridization." Isn't it wild to think that Lamborghini is all in on hybridization before a bunch of other automakers?
In 2023, which was the 60th anniversary of Lamborghini, came the Revuelto. Lamborghini called it the first V12 plug-in hybrid electrified high-performance supercar and said it made more than 1,000 horsepower. Lamborghinis are also known to be named after fighting bulls, and the Revuelto is no different. The Revuelto name comes from a fighting bull in Barcelona in the 1800s, and that bull was so wild that it was known to jump in the stands. If you put Revuelto in Google Translate, you also get a really funny translation. It means scrambled. And in here, we're mixing up some combustion and electric power. I also think it's really fitting because if I saw that Revuelto bull in the 1800s, I would be scrambling away from it. To open the engine cover on the Lamborghini Revuelto, you reach in behind the driver's seat, and about mid-back, there's a little latch that pops it up like that. And people can see the engine anyway, right? This is if you need to get in there and work on stuff. And in that case, you need to hold it open. This right here is a 6.5 liter naturally aspirated V12 engine, and the total output of this car is 1,001 horsepower and 739 pound-feet of torque. The V12 alone makes 814 horsepower and revs to a red line of 9,500 RPM. And this car's total output, 1,001, makes it the most powerful production road-going Lamborghini in the company's history. The Lamborghini Revuelto's V12 pairs with 3 electric motors and a lithium-ion battery pack, and this car can go a few miles on electric-only range. And you might be going, Alanis, who in their right mind is going to buy a $600,000 Lamborghini and plug it in for a few miles of electric range? And I think the answer would surprise a lot of people. People who buy cars in this genre and at this price have a bunch of cars in the garage, and they typically have those cars on battery tenders and with plugs anyway. So I don't think it's that much of a reach to just plug this in. The Revuelto's 1,001 horsepower goes through an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. And in very simple terms, a dual clutch shifts faster than a single clutch. All that power goes to all 4 wheels. And the Revuelto also has torque vectoring, which allows it to send different amounts of torque to different wheels to perfectly put the power down. Some other fun facts about the Revuelto include that it has a carbon fiber monocoque, which forms a rigid but lightweight shell around the passenger compartment. It can hit 62 miles per hour in 2.5 seconds and has a top speed of 218 miles an hour. And Lamborghini says the Revuelto has the best power-to-weight ratio in the history of the company. Since I love algebra, let's do a little bit of it. Power to weight ratio. Lamborghini quotes the dry weight of the Revuelto at 3,906 pounds, and it has 1,000 horsepower. If we plug both of those numbers in and solve for X, that means we have about 0.26 horsepower per pound in this car, or about 1 horsepower for every 4 pounds. That's pretty good. Since we just got super nerdy with algebra, we're gonna keep getting nerdy. Thanks to our channel partner, Magna. Magna creates all kinds of components for cars and even entire cars, like the Toyota Supra and the G-Wagon. And you'll notice on this Revuelto, there are no normal mechanical door handles. Instead, there is a system that just pops the door open and latches it shut.
Magna creates a similar technology called Smart Latch, and it's on many production cars on the road today. The special thing about this Magna door latch system is that all the features and functions are controlled by an integrated ECU. That integrated ECU allows for the elimination of standard mechanical door handles. It also saves weight and improves safety. You might think, well, what if the battery dies or has low voltage? How do I get in or out of the car? No worries. The Smart Latch has an integrated battery backup that allows for electrical release, even when there's a power failure.
We are super proud to partner with Magna, and we cannot wait to teach you more about the stuff that goes on your cars. We have now made it to everyone's favorite part of any Alanis car review, which is how many Alanises can fit in the frunk of this Lamborghini Revuelto. Interesting thing about this frunk is that you have an opener on the key. You also have an opener on the infotainment screen, but I haven't found another button inside that opens the frunk. So in the infotainment screen, you have to go through a few clicks, and then it says open trunk. And there's obviously no trunk, there's an engine back there. So it's a little bit of a misnomer, but your latch is right there, off to the right, and that's a solid 0 Alanises. Welcome inside the Lamborghini Revuelto, where, believe it or not, we're driving in fully electric mode. Now, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do our cold start. There it is! The coolest thing about hybrid supercars is that you start them in all electric mode and they're super quiet and you don't have to bother your neighbors or the people parked next to you or anyone else around you. With that cold start, you can just ease out of wherever you are super quietly and do your cold start a little bit later. It is awesome. I have always loved quiet start features on any kind of car, and having a hybrid supercar where it's literally the quietest start possible is awesome. The quiet start mode is called Cheetah, which means city, and it is fully electric driving mode. So you have a few miles of fully electric range where you can drive this car on the batteries, and you can charge it, or you can choose to recharge it while you're driving through regenerative braking and other practices like that. The moment you get in this car, 3 screens light up. You have your driver instrument cluster, your center infotainment screen, and then the passenger now gets a small, narrow, horizontal screen where they can see what gear you're in, how fast you're going, and different details about the drive. It's actually really cool and makes the person next to you feel super involved in what's happening. And the screen, when it lights up, I love the instrument cluster. It lights up with the name Revuelto. And like we talked about earlier, Lamborghinis are named after fighting bulls. And the Revuelto logo on the screen has a horn on each side, so it looks like a little bull. In the car community, lots of people complain about digital stuff. They complain about screens, they complain about losing your analog gauges and stuff like that. And yeah, I get it, analog gauges are super cool, but something that is really cool about digital instrument clusters is not only the customization and the stuff you can do in that instrument cluster, but the fact that this car, when you turn it on and it's cold, it has a progressive red line. So we talked earlier about how the Revuelto's red line is 9,500 RPM. When you turn this car on, it's cold. So when I got in it the other day, the red line was at like 6,500 RPM. And then as the car warms up, the red line slowly creeps back. It's really cool and really informative because, you know, for so long, you have a supercar, you have a sports car, you have whatever you want to drive and take care of, and you just wait for it to warm up. And it's kind of arbitrary. It's just like, yeah, you know, when I leave my house, I wait until this point for it to warm up and then I rip. No, this car tells you exactly when you can rip. And because I've been in him for a while, I have my 9,500 RPM red line ready to go. I can hit that whenever I want because the car is fully warm. And it's just a way to take care of your stuff because you have legitimate data about when you can actually go to that full red line. The interior of this car is small. I don't have a ton of headroom. I don't have a ton of leg room. And what's really interesting is when you're a passenger in this car, you want to stretch your legs out, but your legs can't actually stretch out. I'm 5'8.5" and I need a bend in my knee in order to sit in the passenger seat of this car. And it's odd because the dashboard goes so far back there and the nose is so long, but you can't stretch your legs out, and it's almost a tease. But that's the price you pay for being in a car like this. I love the styling of the inside of this car, and one of my favorite visual features in here is actually an odd one. It's the fact that the infotainment screen and the center stack of vents actually creates a V. It comes down just like, it's kind of like the opposite of the front nose of the car. It just makes a V on the inside as well. And it's just visually really pleasing to me. I like it a lot. It's a nice way to center your design. Some little quirks about how small the inside of this car is and how minimalist in a way it is your visors flip forward, and they are so small. The width of this is maybe 3 inches, and you have this tiny little mirror. It's the length of half of my index finger, and all you can see in it are your sunglasses. A couple of other final things to note about the interior of this car is that to save space, you have hidden cup holders over in front of the passenger. They pop out of the dashboard. It's actually pretty cool, and they seem pretty sturdy. I had drinks in them earlier. You can only have a normal sized water bottle in there, none of those giant cups or anything like that. And one thing I would say is always a little difficult about a Lamborghini is in the infotainment screen, not super intuitive and it takes a while to load. So when I press something, I go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then it loads. It's also like that if you need to change your vent controls and your air vents and stuff like that. If I need to crank up the air in here, I'll crank it up. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, there it goes. Now it's blowing. It's not the worst thing in the world and you get used to it, but I just wish it responded more quickly. Now that we've done some interior impressions, I think it's about time we rip. The acceleration on this is so fun. Oh my goodness. The mixture of electric and gas power is just awesome. Wow, it just leaps forward. It mixes all of the feeling and emotion of a gas car with just that instant elasticy acceleration of an EV. It's awesome. Now the cool thing about the Revuelto is that it combined has 13 different driving modes. That is combined between your base drive modes and your hybrid drive modes, your powertrain modes. So you have your 4 base drive modes. You have Cheetah, Street, Sport, and Course. And Street is Strada and Course is Corsa because it's in Italian. Ooh. Then you're able to mix those with the powertrain settings, which is you can go hybrid, recharge, which is giving charge back to the battery, or performance, so you can just rip. Oh my goodness. You hit the gas pedal in this car and the visceral sound that occurs behind you is just, that's enough. That'll do it for you. Holy cow. It doesn't matter how the rest of the car feels. It's just how it makes you feel. This is non-verbal driving impressions. Just read my facial expressions. Holy cow. The brake pedal on this car is wonderful. It's super sensitive and super responsive, and it just makes you feel so in control. Wow. And what's amazing is how comfortable this car actually is at low speeds, and honestly how quiet it can be just in normal highway driving when you're not in the crazy drive modes. I also have the active aero going behind me, so my wing keeps popping up and it just makes me feel cool. I'm in sport mode and I have it on automatic shifting, and I'm obviously not flat out because I'm in a very twisty section of road, and you have to be really careful in these sections of road because there are cyclists and things like that. So I'm in a very twisty section of road, and with the amount of throttle I'm giving the car, it's shifting at like 6,500 RPM. It's obviously not going to redline. We're not just going absolutely nuts with the revs, but it's really fun. The Revuelto is a car about feeling. It's not even a car that I can just sit here and say a bunch of detailed things about because I'm not on the racetrack. I'm not pushing it to its edge. All I'm doing is having fun, and that is the point of this car. It's supposed to make you feel something while adding that extra performance and efficiency that you get from a hybrid. And that's exactly what it's doing. I'm having so much fun. If someone didn't tell you, most of the people who get in this car and drive it would have no idea that it's a hybrid because it's just pure V12 ripping back there. Now that we've driven the Lamborghini Revuelto, it's time to give it a grade. Welcome to Alanis's report card. The exterior on this car gets an A. It's beautiful, it's classic Lamborghini, and it's a hybrid underneath, which is really cool. The interior gets a B. There's not a ton of room in there. You don't have a lot of headroom, you don't have a lot of leg room, you don't have a lot of body room or cargo room at all. It's kind of like a Miata, except it's way bigger on the outside. You'll also run into a couple of annoyances on the interior of the Revuelto and other Lamborghinis. When you turn up the fans or turn them down, there is a lag time in the response there. So crank up your fans, 1, 2, 3, there's all the air. It finally got to you. Aside from that, it's pretty nice in there. The performance in this car gets an A. It is built for performance. It is amazing, and it is so cool to have a hybrid system paired with a naturally aspirated V12. You can drive around in your neighborhood without making a single noise and then kick that startup of the V12 as soon as you're out of there, and it's just so good. Value is a very tricky one because you, me, and a lot of the people watching this will go, how do you rate the value on a $600,000 car? Most people cannot afford that. And the answer is you rate it based on who is going to buy it and who is going to spend that $600,000. So let's set the scene here. The original Aventador, remember we said earlier in the video, adjusted for inflation would start at $550,000 today. This starts at $600,000. That is not that big of a jump. The reason I am going to give it a B here is because of the fact that this is a normal Revuelto. This is not a special edition. This is not anything like that. It's bright green, which is awesome, but you're not going to have that value boost based on it just being super rare. And I think you're gonna run into depreciation, just like normal Aventadors have. So it's a B, not for the starting price, but for what will happen after you buy it. Would I take this car on a road trip? I would. I wouldn't have a lot of room for myself or my cargo or anything like that, but I would wave at everybody along the way when they honked at my Lamborghini. And overall, I give this car an A-. It does so many things right. There are just a couple of things it could improve on.
Gone are Lamborghini's old flagship supercars, the Huracán and the Aventador. And here are the new ones, the Temerario and the Revuelto. The Revuelto is a masterpiece of supercar and a masterpiece of hybrid car, because we're entering an era where hybrid supercars can't be any less. It's make or break, and after a few hours in the Revuelto, I think we're at a solid make.
Lamborghini is an automaker of eras, and eras can be a great thing. They form a lot of brand awareness and love, and people know what you sell. But the problem with eras is that when a new one comes around, it's like you're a stranger with something you're supposed to know. So let me reintroduce you to Lamborghini through its new poster child, the Revuelto. I think the kids are gonna be all right.